I hope you'll talk about like what it's like in reading in your school.
Yeah, I'll take this first. All right, is that good?
That's good.
All right, so what I see a lot is there's very little choice. There's a whole lot of, like, there's curriculum books, like books that are set in the curriculum. Like for 10th grade, for example, there's Flies, Macbeth, Canterbury, those kinds of things. And there's not so much choice as to what book we're allowed to read. It's mostly those that are just set.
Is school satisfying you as readers?
It is not, in my opinion. I like to read books that are not necessarily in the curriculum. I like books, like I know Maze Runner was one of my favorite books. It's just, I love how creative it was, and it really resonated with me. And I want kind of more freedom to read books that interest me, like Maze Runner and those kinds of books.
I'm in AP Lang, and we don't do necessarily too much reading. We do little like short bursts in like mentor texts. We have a big textbook that has a bunch of like 6-page essays, I guess, basically.
Yeah.
And that's really all the reading that we're assigned. I mean, I recently there's a stack of books in the back of the room that were all about Columbine. And so I asked my teacher, I was like, so, what are these for? And she was talking about how they're for her 12 academic. And so I asked if I could just borrow one if she had extras, because it looked interesting. I've heard it's like well written. And I took one of those, and now I'm reading that. The problem with that, though, is like in my current AP Lang class, we don't have a lot of time or outlets to apply any of the reading that we do outside of class, because it's all heavily focused on the passages in our textbook and, writing down what strategies that these passages are using, no matter what they're about, if that makes sense.
It does. But it kind of disappoints me too, because the purpose of AP Language was to have students really immerse themselves in the strategies that make nonfiction work. And in my school, we do several whole class, like Friday Night Lights and other big nonfiction books that use those strategies. So I think you still could apply it, and I'm kind of sad that you're not.
Yeah.
About 8th grade in my English class, when we do reading, it's just like the Wild West. The teacher, kids can fake it, and it's for a grade, but there's no control. Most kids pick easy books and don't even read them. There's more like 1 to 3 kids per class who read for the grade, and 2 who like to read. Everyone else just fakes it or just reads because they have to.
Wow.
There's really no joy in the reading.
And what are you reading?
It's just whatever she says that interests you, but that's just really vague, and you just do whatever you want.
Yeah, it sounds like the issue there is that, teachers are attempting to give choice, but they might not be well read themselves in YAL, so they don't really know what to recommend, or they might not know their students' reading identities. So they're just kind of like, a lot of the teachers at this middle school have enormous shelves of books, right? They might have an entire wall of their classroom that's books, but like Jason's saying, they're just, okay, guys, it's SSR. Pick any book on that shelf that interests you and let's go.
Wow. That's really discouraging.
Actually prefer even the bookshelf SSR, even if it's not done well. Just because having such a certain book curriculum heavy year, like 10th grade with 1984, Macbeth, I just think it leaves a lot of people unsatisfied, especially when like certain messages are pushed across rather than you being able to discover on your own.
Wow. Well said. I love that it leaves a lot of people unsatisfied. I mean, what does it mean to be an unsatisfied reader?
I mean, you're reading the pages, but you're just not feeling it. Like, you're not driving yourself to get through the pages, page after page.
Yeah,
you're being forced. Yeah.
Who was talking there? Was that you, Jason?
Yeah, that was me. It's just a lot of required reading that no one gets joy out of. I myself personally, I get all my books on my own and I enjoy reading. But when I read, I like to read. You know, when they read, it's more required and forced.
Yeah. So talk about, does joy matter? Any of you who haven't jumped in yet, does joy matter?
Yes, definitely. I feel like joy is something that drives you to read. And if you don't have it, like Jason said, it is very required and forced. So, I mean, we had a project in my English class where you picked a book that you liked first, and then you went on to connect that book to a different book and so on. And so we read 6 books, and yes, a lot of kids did fake it, but in the end, the kids that didn't fake it were actually, like, you could tell that they were enjoying the books themselves because they weren't, they didn't have any restrictions on which books to choose, and they went with their own connections to each book. So a lot of the reading in that project was genuine and heartfelt and desired.
Wow. Well said.